Your home for the best college football coverage in Utah is on the KSL Sports Zone. Ready? It's a Friday night showdown in Provo as the Cougars square off against Oklahoma State. Your home for the best coverage of Cougar football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, everybody. It's another edition of JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jeremiah Jensen to my right, Alex Curie here. Our program brought to you by G2G Bars, as the voice said. And also, this hour, we're jumping straight in here. This is going to be a lot of fun for us all basketball season long. We're welcoming in Big T, Thurl Bailey, to the program with the cut. Let's jump in right here, top of the hour.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Thurl Bailey joining us on the program. Big T, thanks for being with us. How's it going, man?
What's up? I'm doing well. I'm sitting here in, it's not even raining in Portland. It wants to.
We're getting it. I was going to say, we're getting it out here.
How is it raining here and not in Portland?
We're getting it here.
I know, man. Isn't that crazy? How you guys doing?
We're good.
We're good, Big T. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm ready. I'm ready, man.
The weather turning.
Put me in, Coach.
Yeah, the weather turning means that we start to think a lot more about basketball now, and the preseason wraps up and the Jazz fire off next week in the regular season. What do you do to prepare for every season? Like the year in and year out grind, Thurl, like what really is it that you have to do to kind of get yourself kind of mentally and I would imagine physically ready for all the rigor of the season?
I go 2-a-days. No, I'm kidding.
You get on you start doing some gassers, yeah.
I was going to say, Thurl, you're retired. You don't have to do that anymore.
No, I don't. I think what I normally do is I try to keep up on anything that happens, obviously during the off season with players, where they go, who signs who. Specifically with the Jazz, we just kind of keep up with all the transactions that are going on and anything that Justin and Danny are talking about as far as what they're trying to do move-wise. But really, there's not a lot to do until, you get the media day and the guys who are pretty much going to be sticking around, the young players that are coming in. And, of course, we hit Summer League, and so we get a lot of information there. But it's not really until we get going do we kind of get to know what to expect throughout the course, like the lineups. The team will be narrowed down, right, and guys will be sent to the G League or getting minutes. We're just thrown right into it.
Before we get into some individual players and some of the storylines for this season, I wanted to ask you about the youth movement because the management's been very clear about where this team is at and what they want to accomplish this season. We're going to see a lot of young players play, a lot of young players develop. As for fans that are watching, what can they look for with that? What can they be excited about with that? Because obviously there's not this we're going to go win a title motivation this year, but there's a lot of joy that can be had by watching some of these young players go out there and get better each and every night.
Yeah, I kind of liken it a little bit to, having kids yourself, right? At a certain point, you try to help develop them the best you can, and then they get to a point where, they're taking all that information and they're going and trying to get to the next level. And I think historically with the Utah Jazz, it's been the team of this state and of this city. So they've been able to kind of grow with players over the years and watch them develop and enjoy their work ethic, knowing that, it's not going to be a championship run or maybe in some cases even a playoff run. So our fans are Jazz Nation's pretty astute with that. But I think there's some excitement in, one, what the players like Keontae George, who's had a year here, and Walker Kessler, who's in his third, watching them get better and watching them be all in with this movement. And so I think that's what we can look forward to. I think, of course, there are going to be teams who come in and underestimate us at their place and at ours, and there's going to be some surprises, some exciting things with some of these young players. But I also think the mix of the veterans and the young players who are learning from them is going to be, we've seen some of that in the preseason. And so there's a lot of different elements, and we're going to win some games people probably think we shouldn't win. And then we're going to have they're going to have their difficult times. And that's the sign of a team that, you hope has bought in, because it's the tough moments. You want to see how they really come out and compete.
We did this a couple of years ago where we were like youth movement, a lot of young guys coming in, a lot of names you're not that familiar with. At that point, you didn't know the type of impact that we were going to see out of, Larry Markin in that first year becomes an all-star for his first year in Salt Lake City, what Colin Sexton was going to do. All these guys who come in and do it. Is there a version of, and I'm not trying to ask you to get people's hopes up here, but like this is what we were saying a couple of years ago before that team really started out strong and started quick. Is there a version of that can happen this year? You said they could win some games that people don't expect them to win. Again, not trying to make the expectations high, but at the same time, like sometimes these professional basketball players surprise you, and they go out and they compete every night.
Look, we've got some really good players on this Jazz team. And I don't mean just the veterans. I don't mean just the Jordan Clarksons and John Collins, and Colin Sextons. I think the chemistry really is the first thing that Jazz Nation will really start to get a hang of, how these guys really connect and go out and play. But I just think that if you understand what Justin and Danny and Will Hardy are trying to do here, they're trying to put the best players on the floor. And with that, you give these young players who may not totally be NBA ready, but there's some really good signs that they can develop on the fly. And I've seen that already in the preseason. So are there going to be rough nights? Absolutely, there will be. But understanding what these guys are going to try to give you every single night, I just think that development is going to be something that Jazz Nation is going to enjoy, getting to know these young players, their personalities, but also getting to see a guy like Larry Markin get the keys to the city and say, hey, all right, now you've been here long enough. You're a great player. Let's go out and try to show it every single night.
You played for some great coaches over the years, some of the all-time greats. So you know what it takes to be a great coach, and I'm sure you've also seen what it takes to be a not great coach in the NBA. What attributes does Will Hardy have that you've seen in these 3 years that gives you confidence that he's going to be an elite coach in this league?
Well, when Will first came in, I think some of the attributes that you need as a head coach, there's some that take priority over others. So I think communication is probably the most important. I mean, you're dealing with high-valued assets here, and especially in the young players, you've got to be able to be on their level. You've got to be able to coach them hard, but also understand that there's only a certain, with each individual player, you've got to have that kind of relationship where you got to tell them like it is, and they've got to understand that. And they might not like it, but they understand, the structure of what the Jazz are trying to do. And Will has just been amazing at his communication factor from the beginning. And even now, I think it's a little different, especially with the younger players. I mean, you're coaching 19, 20-year-olds, right? So your coaching is a lot different than you coaching Jordan Clarkson, right, who's been around in the league. You don't have to coach him as much because you know what you're going to get from him, but you need his help and buying into, the type of team that we've been talking about. So, yeah, I think that, and just the fact that, this game is similar across the league, where there's a lot of options out there, a lot of screening, a lot of maybe you call it something different. So that part I think is important with your coaching staff that is bought in as well, to be able to help the development of these young players on the court and off the court.
Thurl Bailey, of course, joins us here on the program. Big T is going to be with us all season long on Thursdays to walk us through what this Jazz team's doing. Tomorrow night, last preseason game of the preseason before the season gets serious next Wednesday. What have you learned about these guys in these handful of preseason games that you've watched?
Well, like any preseason, right? I think it's even more truncated now. And if you ask most of the coaches, I think they would prefer, maybe to have more practices. But you have to, these as a player, you just get tired of playing against your own guys, right? You know each other well, and it's like, you look for something different. I think the preseason games really come into play, having these guys go out and try to demonstrate it in a real-life game situation. So what I've seen in particular as each game has gone on is just a progression of chemistry, a mixture of, vets and young players. Even in San Antonio, when, there were key players who did not play, I thought a guy like Cody Williams really showed what he's capable of in that situation. A guy like Isaiah Collier, before his hammy injury, you could tell that physically he's ready for this league, and I think he's going to make a lot of noise early on. So going into the regular season, of course, you've got to cut the roster down, you've got to cut your rotation to the guys you're going to play. But I think it served its purpose in really putting these young guys right into the fire and seeing who needs more development in the G League, right, who might be getting a little more time than expected. Yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun to be close to it and watch that development happen.
The Jazz made a big commitment in the offseason to Lauri Markkanen. We know he's definitely going to be here all season long. He gets an extension. And it's just been fascinating, Thurl, to watch him blossom here in Utah into an all-star player. You've been around the league in basketball a long time. How do you describe what he does in his game? He's almost like a unicorn. I don't know if that's the right way to use to describe him. Is there anybody that he reminds you of in the league during your time in basketball, and what do you expect from him this season?
I really have not seen a guy his size and his build be able to do all the things that he can do, and specifically talking offensively. I mean, he is kind of an anomaly in the fact that he can play without the basketball, coming off screens. You can set all kinds of schemes up to get him open, but he is so freaking athletic, and he is a guy who one of the best in the league at the catch and shoot three. And now I think you'll see the Jazz put him in situations more where he can be isolated and have an advantage. He'll be at the nail a lot, right there in the middle of the free throw line, and you'll see him have to make a play. And I think that's a difference in what you'll end up seeing this year. Is he is trying to become more of a playmaker instead of a guy who once he touches it, he's going to get you a good shot, whether at the basket or whether from the three-point line. I think as he has been working on his ball handling, you get 2 or 3 dribbles into a move and they send another guy at you. You've got to be able to make the best play and know where the guys are around you. So I think that's his next step, but I've seen some really good signs of that in the preseason. But Lauri, man, I mean, I can't think of any other player that has all the different kind of attributes that he has. I mean, there's guys like Kevin Durant who are that tall and can play like a point guard, but Lauri is different in the fact that I think he can be just amazing on both ends, actually.
Patty Mills comes in, same age as Will Hardy, by the way, just in case you're keeping – yeah, it's wild. What does a presence like a Patty Mills in the locker room do? We know the veteran leadership of a guy like Jordan Clarkson, but sometimes he's not necessarily the vocal guy. Is Patty Mills that guy that comes in and is just an extension of another coach and a guy who, is obviously not going to be playing a ton of more seasons, but they brought him in for a reason. And what do you think that reason is?
Well, he's already said it. He knows his role. His role is to be an extension of the coach. His role is to help these young players mature, and not just the young players. I mean, you talk to Jordan Clarkson, and I think in one of his press conferences he says, "Hey, I'm fangirling over Patty Mills," and that's just a kind of basketball legacy, if you will, that he's kind of created throughout his career. Whether it's with San Antonio, the Olympics, he's a guy that has a great journey, a great story, and just worked hard to do it. You've got a guy who's won a championship. So I'm hoping that these young players are sponges and they just try to pick his brain. But I think a lot of times you'll see him when there's timeouts and the coaches are out in a little coaches huddle. He's going to be the coach on the bench, just making sure these guys, again, especially in the difficult times, right? I mean, everybody can cheer when things are going right, but you need somebody in that locker room, even when the coaches aren't in there, because I'm not sure the last couple of years, if there's a players-only meeting that need to be had, who's going to run that, right? Who's the guy who's going to step up and call that meeting? Patty Mills is one of those guys, right? He's been through it all, and I think that in turn, that's going to help. We always talk about basketball development. That's another part of it. And so I think Patty is going to be just a great asset, and he's still got game.
Keontae George, everyone's excited about his future, had a solid rookie season. What do you want to see from him in year two?
Oh, I love what Keontae's done with this game. He's got something, and it's not just about basketball. He's got this confidence about him that helps. I think it's helped that development come sooner. And so I just like to see the leadership part of what Keontae is going to be asked to do develop this season. And we've seen a lot of it in the preseason. I thought we saw some last year when they threw him at the end of the season. It just threw him in there and said, "Hey, go lead us. You go make your mistakes, get them out of your system, learn from them. Get tired, because you got to know what kind of shape you've got to be in this coming year to run this team." And I think Keontae's done a really good job of being a floor general, but also being selfish enough to know I got to get mine too in my situations. And that balance, I think, is really what coaches are looking for him to be able to get better at this year.
I just want to call you Coach too, because I feel like we're getting coached up every week. Big T gives us the lowdown, man. And we're looking forward to this, Thurl. We're looking forward to being able to get the download every week. Have fun out there in Portland. Should be a fun one tomorrow, and then we get our big boy pants on, get the real games going on next Wednesday. We're excited, man.
It's go time.
Yes, sir. Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me this season. I'm excited. Excited to be with you every Thursday.
Thanks, Big T.
There you go. Big T, Thurl Bailey, everybody. Oh, man. Honestly, I fangirl over Big T. Every time we have him on, we have talked to him a dozen times.
12-year-old me knew what I was just doing for the last 15 minutes. I'm telling you. We're very fortunate to have Thurl Bailey in our community, number one. Number two, to have him analyzing the Jazz every night. And number three, having him on a show.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's going to be awesome. Appreciate him taking the time every Thursday this season. It's going to be awesome.